At Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan, Technical Sergeant Maya Rodriguez tightened the last bolt on the F-16's engine cowling as the morning sun climbed over the Hindu Kush Mountains. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, showing no sign of the tremor that had plagued her for months after the incident 3 years ago. The rocket attack that killed her entire 12-person maintenance crew while she attended a briefing had shattered more than just aircraft hangars. It had broken the confidence of a woman who once held the Air Force record for fastest combat aircraft repair in theater. Airman First Class Tommy Chen jogged across the flight line, his boots crunching on the gravel as he approached with obvious urgency. The young technician still carried himself with the nervous energy of someone adjusting to his first combat deployment, but his technical skills were solid. "Sergeant Rodriguez, we've got weather coming in from the north," he announced, slightly out of breath. "Major Hassan says it could shut down flight operations for 18 hours, maybe longer." Maya glanced toward the mountains, where massive thunderheads were building like dark fortresses against the morning sky. In Afghanistan, weather wasn't just meteorological data, it was tactical intelligence. The Taliban had learned to coordinate their operations with storm systems that would ground coalition air support and reduce visibility to near zero. "How long before it hits?" Maya asked, already calculating the implications for aircraft security and personnel safety. "Maybe 4 hours, Chen replied. "Colonel Martinez wants everything buttoned up tight and all hands briefed on severe weather protocols within the hour." Maya nodded, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders despite her reduced role. Colonel Elena Martinez commanded the 455th Air Expeditionary Wing's maintenance operations with the kind of professional competence that came from years of keeping aircraft flying in hostile environments. She'd been understanding about Maya's transfer from crew chief to basic maintenance duties, but Maya could still feel those evaluating eyes during squadron meetings. Staff Sergeant Carlos Rivera emerged from the F-16's avionics bay, diagnostic equipment trailing behind him like electronic intestines. Rivera had earned the call sign Ghost for his ability to troubleshoot intermittent problems that other technicians couldn't replicate. His skills had only improved during Maya's absence from leadership positions. "We've got some anomalies in the flight control computers," Rivera reported, his voice carrying the professional concern of someone who understood that small problems could become fatal failures at 30,000 feet. "Nothing that would ground the bird right now, but worth watching if the ops tempo picks up." Maya studied the diagnostic readouts with interest that surprised her. For 3 years, she'd avoided the complex technical challenges that had once defined her career, but technical puzzles had a way of bypassing psychological barriers, engaging the analytical mind that had made her legendary among Air Force maintenance personnel. "What kind of anomalies?" she asked, falling back into the systematic troubleshooting approach that had once saved countless missions. "Intermittent feedback spikes from the fly-by-wire system," Rivera explained, pulling up additional data on his tablet. "Could be sensor degradation from all the dust we get here, or electromagnetic interference from the new communication arrays they bolted on during the last upgrade cycle." Maya found herself calculating failure modes and backup system requirements with automatic precision. The F-16's fly-by-wire controls were triple redundant, specifically because computer failures at supersonic speeds meant death for pilots who trusted their lives to electronic systems. "Run full diagnostics on all 3 backup flight control computers," she instructed, her voice carrying the authority she'd tried to suppress for years. "If we're looking at primary system degradation, I want every redundant pathway verified before the next combat sortie." Senior Airman Jessica Torres approached from the meteorology station, weather reports clutched in her hand, and concern written across her face. Torres had earned the call sign Radar through her exceptional ability to read weather patterns and their tactical implications for flight operations. "Sergeant Rodriguez," she began, "we're tracking winds that could hit 70 knots with visibility dropping to 0 during the peak of the storm. But there's something else you need to know. Intelligence is picking up increased Taliban radio chatter that seems to be coordinating with the weather timeline." Maya's combat instincts, dormant for 3 years of avoiding responsibility, suddenly sharpened with painful clarity. During her deployment as a crew chief, she'd studied enemy tactics with the dedication of someone whose people's lives depended on understanding how insurgents thought and operated. "What kind of coordination?" Maya asked, her mind automatically shifting into the threat assessment mode she'd once used to protect her maintenance crews. "References to When the Mountains Weep and Striking the Iron Birds While They Sleep," Torres replied, consulting her intelligence summary. "The pattern matches pre-attack communications we've intercepted before major assaults on coalition installations." The implications hit Maya like physical force. Taliban commanders understood that destroying aircraft on the ground was more efficient than engaging them in air-to-air combat. More importantly, they knew that eliminating maintenance capabilities could ground an entire wing more effectively than surface-to-air missiles. Technical Sergeant David Park appeared from the hydraulics bay, his coveralls stained with the rainbow colors of aircraft fluids that marked career maintenance personnel. Park had been working aircraft systems since before Maya joined the Air Force, and his institutional knowledge had prevented countless maintenance-related accidents. "Maya, we need to talk," Park said quietly, glancing around to ensure their conversation wouldn't be overheard. "I've been monitoring maintenance schedules across the entire wing, and we're looking at a perfect storm of vulnerabilities." Maya felt her stomach tighten as she recognized the tone in Park's voice. It was the same careful concern she'd heard in her own voice when briefing commanders about problems that could get people killed. "What kind of vulnerabilities?" "Scheduled maintenance has 6 F-16s down for engine work, 3 A-10s waiting for parts, and our backup generator systems are operating at 60% capacity due to component failures," Park explained systematically. "If someone wanted to hit us while our defensive capabilities were degraded, they couldn't ask for better timing." The tactical picture was becoming devastatingly clear. Enemy forces had intelligence about maintenance schedules, weather patterns, and operational capabilities that suggested either sophisticated surveillance or inside information about wing operations. Airman Basic Lisa Wong materialized from the communications bunker, her usual quiet demeanor replaced by obvious urgency. Wong's language skills had made her valuable for monitoring insurgent communications, and her analytical abilities often identified patterns that escaped more experienced intelligence personnel. "Sergeant Rodriguez," she announced breathlessly, "I've been tracking the radio intercepts that Airman Torres mentioned. Coordination is even more sophisticated than we initially thought. They're not just planning to attack during the storm, they're planning to capture aircraft intact." Maya felt cold clarity wash over her despite the Afghan heat. Capturing American military aircraft would provide propaganda value beyond anything achievable through simple destruction. More critically, intact F-16 and A-10 would compromise American tactics and technology on a global scale. "Where's Colonel Martinez?" Maya asked, already knowing that this information needed to reach command immediately. "Command post," Wong replied. "She's in emergency session with wing intelligence and operations personnel. They're trying to assess the credibility of the threat and determine appropriate response measures." Maya looked across the flight line where dozens of aircraft sat in various stages of maintenance and preparation. Each one represented millions of dollars in advanced technology. And more importantly, the combat capability that kept coalition forces alive throughout Afghanistan. The idea of those aircraft falling into enemy hands was unthinkable. Master Sergeant Frank Morrison approached from the weapons loading area, his expression showing the kind of professional concern that came from 25 years of military service in increasingly dangerous environments. Morrison had supervised weapons loading operations during some of the Air Force's most intense combat periods. "Maya, we've got a problem with ammunition storage," he announced without preamble. "The automated loading systems are showing intermittent faults, and we're down to manual loading procedures for all ordnance. If we need to generate a large number of combat sorties quickly, we don't have the capability." The tactical situation was deteriorating faster than Maya had seen since her early deployment days, when insurgent attacks had been daily occurrences. Every system that could fail seemed to be developing problems simultaneously, creating vulnerabilities that professional military forces would recognize and exploit. Captain Sarah Kim appeared from the command post, her pilot's flight suit showing the wear patterns that came from frequent combat missions. Kim flew I-10 Thunderbolts in close air support missions and understood better than most how maintenance capabilities determine mission success or failure. "Sergeant Rodriguez," Kim said formally, "Colonel Martinez requests your presence at the emergency briefing. Your background makes you valuable for assessing potential enemy objectives if they're targeting maintenance operations." Maya hesitated, feeling the familiar anxiety that had kept her in routine assignments for 3 years. Command briefings meant responsibility for other people's lives, decision-making under pressure, and the possibility of failure that could get fellow airmen killed. "I'm just a maintenance technician now," Maya said carefully, trying to avoid the leadership role that seemed to be pulling her back despite her best efforts to remain invisible. "You're the most experienced maintenance leader on this base," Kim replied firmly. "Your technical knowledge and tactical understanding could be the difference between losing aircraft and keeping them operational when lives depend on it." As they walked toward the command post, Maya noticed increased activity throughout the base. Security Forces personnel were conducting additional patrols, and she could see Staff Sergeant Maria Santos directing the placement of additional defensive barriers around critical facilities. Santos had earned respect through competence and uncompromising professional standards that kept base personnel safe. The command post hummed with controlled urgency as intelligence analysts processed incoming data, while operations personnel updated status boards with current aircraft availability. The air conditioning provided relief from the Afghan heat, but the tension was almost tangible as senior leaders grappled with threat information that could determine the base's survival. Colonel Martinez stood before a large tactical display showing the base layout and surrounding terrain. She was a compact woman in her early 40s whose graying temples and alert eyes reflected years of making life and death decisions under extreme pressure. Her command presence filled the room despite her relatively small physical stature. "Sergeant Rodriguez," Colonel Martinez said, acknowledging Maya's arrival. "Captain Kim was explaining why your expertise might be crucial for understanding what we're facing." Major Hassan, the wing's intelligence officer, gestured toward a table covered with reconnaissance photos and communication intercepts. His analytical mind worked constantly to process the flood of information streaming in from multiple sources throughout the region. "We're looking at coordinated enemy activity that suggests a sophisticated understanding of our operational vulnerabilities," Hassan explained, spreading aerial photographs across the table. "The timing, the targeting, the coordination all point to professional military planning rather than typical insurgent operations." Maya studied the intelligence materials with growing unease. The reconnaissance photos showed vehicle concentrations, weapons caches, and staging areas positioned around Bagram's perimeter like pieces on a strategic game board. This wasn't random insurgent activity. "If I were planning an attack on this base," Maya said slowly, her tactical training overriding 3 years of avoiding leadership responsibilities, "I'd target maintenance capabilities first, destroy our ability to keep aircraft flying, then pick off individual birds while they're grounded for repairs." Colonel Martinez nodded approvingly, recognizing the analytical approach that had once made Maya one of the Air Force's most effective maintenance leaders. "That matches our assessment," the colonel agreed, "which is why we need someone with your background coordinating defensive preparations for all maintenance operations." Maya felt the familiar weight of command responsibility settling on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. For 3 years, she'd avoided exactly this kind of situation, making decisions that could determine whether fellow airmen lived or died, accepting responsibility for outcomes beyond her direct control. Lieutenant Colonel James Wright entered the briefing room with updated operational reports that painted an increasingly concerning tactical picture. Wright commanded the base's security forces and understood better than most how insurgent attacks could overwhelm defensive positions through coordination and superior numbers. "We've identified at least 40 personnel moving toward positions around the base perimeter," Wright announced to the assembled staff. "Their movement patterns suggest professional military training rather than typical insurgent tactics." Captain Jennifer Lee arrived with communication intercepts that confirmed everyone's worst fears about the sophistication of the threat they were facing. Lee's language skills and analytical abilities had identified patterns that revealed enemy capabilities and intentions. "The coordination is exceptional," Lee reported with professional concern. "They're using military-grade communication equipment, encrypted frequencies, and operational security measures that match Special Forces standards. This isn't just local Taliban fighters." Maya processed this information while studying the base layout through tactical eyes. Her maintenance experience automatically identified critical vulnerabilities that enemy forces would target to achieve maximum disruption of air operations. "They'll go for the fuel farms, parts warehouses, and maintenance hangars," she realized aloud. "Cut off our ability to sustain operations, then capture aircraft that are grounded by lack of support capabilities." Major Hassan consulted additional intelligence reports while maintaining the careful, analytical approach that kept coalition forces informed about evolving threats throughout the region. "Intercepts indicate they're planning to coordinate their assault with the peak of the storm," he announced. "Maximum weather degradation of our defensive capabilities combined with their coordinated ground attack." The tactical mathematics were becoming unavoidably clear. Enemy forces had planned this operation with professional thoroughness, timing their assault to exploit every possible advantage while minimizing their exposure to coalition defensive capabilities. Sergeant First Class Robert Chen burst through the command post doors with field reports that demonstrated how quickly the situation was deteriorating beyond normal security measures. Chen supervised base communications and understood better than most how enemy forces could disrupt coordination between defensive elements. "Sir, we're detecting systematic jamming attempts against our primary communication frequencies," he announced breathlessly. "They're not just planning to attack. They're trying to isolate us from higher headquarters and prevent coordination between different defensive positions." Colonel Martinez surveyed her assembled staff with the calm assessment of a commander who'd made difficult decisions throughout her career. Every person in the room represented critical capabilities that would determine whether Bagram survived the approaching assault. "Recommendations?" she asked, simply opening the floor to tactical input from anyone with relevant expertise. Maya found herself speaking before conscious thought could override her instinctive response to tactical challenges. The words came from deep experience in keeping aircraft operational under the worst possible conditions. "We can't stop a coordinated assault from penetrating the perimeter," she said, her voice carrying growing confidence despite 3 years of avoiding leadership roles. "But we can control where they penetrated, channel their approach into prepared defensive positions while protecting our most critical assets." Major Wright nodded approvingly at Maya's assessment, recognizing the kind of tactical thinking that turned potential disasters into manageable challenges. "Defense in depth," he agreed. "Use the base infrastructure to our advantage. Make them fight for every building while we fall back through prepared positions." Captain Kim provided pilot perspective that highlighted additional considerations for maintaining operational capabilities during sustained attack. "If we lose maintenance capabilities completely, every aircraft becomes a liability rather than an asset," she pointed out. "We need to preserve enough technical expertise to keep at least some birds flying, even if we lose the main facilities." Maya realized she was facing the decision she'd been avoiding for 3 years. Her technical expertise was critically needed, but her leadership experience and tactical knowledge might be even more valuable for coordinating the defensive maintenance operations. "Colonel," she said quietly, feeling the weight of resumed responsibility, "request permission to coordinate maintenance defense operations during the assault. My people know the aircraft and facilities better than anyone. We can keep critical systems operational even under combat conditions." Colonel Martinez studied Maya carefully, recognizing the transformation taking place before her eyes. This wasn't the same person who'd requested transfer to routine duties 3 years earlier. "Granted," Martinez replied, "but remember, Sergeant, your primary responsibility is keeping our people alive, not salvaging equipment. Aircraft can be replaced. Skilled maintainers cannot." As the briefing dissolved into specific operational assignments, Maya gathered her equipment with movements that revealed her military background. The hesitant maintenance technician was being replaced by something harder and more focused, shaped by years of keeping aircraft flying under impossible conditions. The approaching storm raged toward Bagram with biblical fury while enemy forces moved through the darkness toward their objectives. They expected to find an airbase defended by routine security forces and support personnel. Instead, they were about to encounter a maintenance leader who'd finally remembered what she was capable of when people she cared about needed protection. Technical Sergeant Maya Rodriguez was discovering that some skills never truly disappear. They just wait underground until circumstances force them back to the surface, more refined and deadly than ever before. The first explosion shattered the pre-dawn stillness at 03:42 hours, a thunderous blast that rattled windows throughout the base and sent personnel scrambling to their assigned defensive positions. Maya felt a concussion through the concrete floor of the maintenance bunker, where she'd established her forward command post, her trained ear immediately identifying the distinctive signature of plastic explosives detonated against the perimeter fence. "Contact Sector 7, crackled through her tactical radio in the calm voice of Staff Sergeant Maria Santos. "Multiple breaches, estimate squad-sized elements advancing under cover of the storm. Engaging now." The staccato reports of M4 carbines echoed across Bagram as security forces engaged the first wave of infiltrators. Through the reinforced windows of her bunker, Maya could see muzzle flashes strobing through the driving rain and darkness like deadly fireflies dancing through the storm. Technical Sergeant David Park burst through the bunker door with his maintenance team, their faces streaked with rain and determination. Park's institutional knowledge of base systems would be crucial for keeping critical operations functioning under combat conditions. "Maya, they hit the primary power distribution center with some kind of improvised explosive device," he announced without preamble. "We're running on backup generators, but those won't support full operations for more than 6 hours under maximum load." Maya processed this information with tactical clarity that surprised her after 3 years of avoiding command responsibilities. The enemy's opening move revealed sophisticated understanding of how to cripple air operations through infrastructure attacks rather than direct engagement with aircraft. "Which systems are we prioritizing?" she asked, already knowing the answer would determine their survival prospects during the extended engagement ahead. "Aircraft maintenance facilities, communication systems, and defensive weapons," Park replied. "Everything else goes dark to conserve power for essential operations." Another explosion, closer this time, sent dust cascading from the bunker ceiling as enemy forces pressed their coordinated assault with professional precision. Maya could hear the distinctive crack of AK-47 fire, answered by the heavier reports of American machine guns as the battle intensified across multiple sectors simultaneously. Airman First Class Tommy Chen materialized from the communication alcove with updates that highlighted the sophisticated nature of the threat they were facing. Chen's technical skills were keeping the maintenance teams connected despite enemy efforts to disrupt their coordination. "Sergeant Rodriguez, I've got Colonel Martinez on secure frequency," he announced, offering her the tactical radio. "She's requesting immediate status reports on all aircraft and maintenance capabilities." Maya accepted the radio with hands that remained steady despite the chaos erupting around them. Her voice, when she responded, carried the professional composure of someone accustomed to making critical decisions under extreme pressure. "Command, this is maintenance control. All aircraft are secured in hardened shelters. Primary maintenance facilities are operational on backup power, but we're facing systematic infrastructure attacks designed to degrade our capabilities." Colonel Martinez's response crackled through heavy static as enemy jamming attempts interfered with their communications. "Roger, maintenance control. Be advised, we're detecting coordinated movement toward your position from multiple directions. Recommend immediate implementation of fallback procedures." Before Maya could respond, the distinctive whistle of incoming rocket-propelled grenades cut through the storm noise. She grabbed Chen and Park, pulling them away from the windows as 3 RPGs impacted the maintenance complex with devastating precision, their explosions illuminating the battle area with orange fire that revealed dozens of enemy fighters advancing through the rain. They know exactly what they're targeting, Maya realized aloud as she assessed the damage through tactical eyes. This isn't random destruction. Someone's provided them with detailed intelligence about our critical systems and vulnerabilities. Staff Sergeant Carlos Rivera appeared from the aircraft shelters with field reports that demonstrated how the enemy assault was unfolding according to a sophisticated plan designed to capture rather than destroy valuable assets. "Maya, they're not trying to blow up the aircraft," he announced with professional concern. "They're systematically disabling specific systems while leaving the airframes intact. Someone's given them technical manuals for every bird we operate." The implications were staggering. Enemy forces weren't just conducting a typical insurgent attack. They were executing a complex operation designed to capture American military aircraft for intelligence and propaganda purposes that would compromise coalition operations throughout the region. Senior Airman Jessica Torres transmitted weather updates that provided both tactical challenges and potential opportunities for defensive operations. The storm system was creating conditions that favored different tactics than conventional desert warfare. Visibility is dropping to near zero, but the rain is interfering with their thermal imaging equipment, she reported through the Tactical Communication Network. "If we can exploit the weather conditions, we might be able to maneuver without detection." Maya found herself calculating movement patterns and defensive positions with the automatic precision of someone trained in complex maintenance logistics under combat conditions. The same analytical skills that kept aircraft operational could be applied to keeping personnel alive during coordinated enemy assault. Airman Basic Lisa Wong burst through the bunker entrance with communication intercepts that revealed the true scope of the threat they were facing. Wong's language skills had uncovered intelligence that changed their understanding of enemy capabilities and objectives. "Sergeant Rodriguez, I've been monitoring their tactical communications," she announced breathlessly. "They're coordinating with professional military contractors, former Special Forces personnel who understand American equipment and procedures." Maya felt familiar sensations washing over her as combat instincts suppressed for 3 years began reasserting themselves under the pressure of immediate necessity. The analytical clarity, the tactical awareness, the cold calculation of options and consequences that had once made her legendary among Air Force maintenance personnel. Captain Sarah Kim's voice crackled through the radio from her position in the aircraft shelters, providing updates that highlighted both their defensive capabilities and the sophisticated nature of the enemy assault. "Maintenance control, I'm observing professional assault teams moving toward the A-10 shelters with equipment designed for aircraft capture rather than destruction. These aren't typical insurgents." Maya switched radio frequencies to coordinate with security forces personnel who were engaged across multiple sectors of the base perimeter. Staff Sergeant Santos had been fighting a running battle against numerically superior forces while trying to protect critical facilities. "Security forces, this is maintenance control," Maya transmitted with growing authority. "Can you provide status on enemy strength and coordination?" "At least 60 fighters that we've identified," Santos replied, her voice steady despite the obvious stress of sustained combat. "Professional equipment, coordinated tactics, and they're adapting to our defensive responses in real time. This is the most sophisticated attack we've ever encountered." Master Sergeant Frank Morrison appeared from the weapons storage area with reports that demonstrated how the enemy had planned to exploit every possible vulnerability in their defensive capabilities. "They've hit our automated weapons loading systems with precision strikes," he announced grimly. "We're down to manual ordnance handling for all aircraft. If we need to generate combat sorties, it'll take 3 times longer than normal." The tactical picture was becoming clear to Maya as she processed information from multiple sources. Enemy forces had intelligence about maintenance schedules, defensive capabilities, and operational procedures that suggested months of surveillance and planning. This wasn't an opportunistic attack during a storm. It was a carefully orchestrated operation designed to achieve specific objectives. Lieutenant Colonel James Wright's voice cut through radio traffic with updates that confirmed the professional nature of the enemy assault and the challenges facing conventional defensive measures. All stations, this is Security Forces Command. Enemy forces are demonstrating exceptional coordination and tactical discipline. They're not just trying to overrun the base. They're executing a complex plan to capture specific high-value assets. Maya realized she was witnessing the kind of threat that her maintenance expertise had prepared her to understand better than conventional security personnel. Aircraft systems, logistics capabilities, and technical vulnerabilities were her professional specialty, and the enemy was targeting exactly those areas. Colonel Wright, she transmitted on the command frequency, request permission to coordinate maintenance personnel in direct support of defensive operations. My people know the aircraft and facilities better than anyone. Wright's response came immediately, reflecting the desperate nature of their tactical situation and the need for every available capability to prevent catastrophic loss of coalition air power. Permission granted, maintenance control. All available personnel are authorized for combat operations. Use whatever methods necessary to protect critical assets. Maya looked around the bunker at her assembled maintenance team. Chen, Park, Rivera, Torres, Wong, and a dozen other highly trained technicians whose skills kept sophisticated aircraft operational under impossible conditions. They weren't infantry, but they were professionals who understood how to work under pressure and solve complex problems when lives depended on their expertise. "Listen up," she announced, her voice carrying the authority she'd avoided for 3 years. "We're not just defending aircraft anymore. We're defending the capability that keeps every coalition pilot in Afghanistan alive. These people are counting on us to make sure their birds are ready when they need them most." Technical Sergeant Park nodded grimly while checking his weapon with the careful attention to detail that characterized everything he did. "What's the plan, Maya?" Maya studied the tactical display showing enemy positions around the base perimeter like pieces on a deadly game board. Her maintenance experience provided insights into vulnerabilities and defensive possibilities that conventional security training might not recognize. "We're going to use what we know," she said with growing confidence. "Aircraft systems, facility layouts, technical capabilities. Turn our maintenance expertise into tactical advantages that they won't expect." The battle for Bagram was entering its critical phase, and Technical Sergeant Maya Rodriguez was finally ready to stop avoiding the leadership responsibilities that her experience and training had prepared her to handle. The enemy forces moving through the storm toward their positions had no idea that their carefully planned operation was about to encounter maintenance personnel who understood warfare from perspectives that infantry tactics couldn't anticipate. Maya had spent 3 years running from the responsibility of keeping people alive under combat conditions. Now she was about to discover that the same skills that kept aircraft flying could be used to keep fellow airmen breathing when everything depended on technical expertise applied with tactical precision. The storm continued to rage across Afghanistan, providing cover for both attacking forces and defending personnel who would determine whether American air power survived the night or fell to enemies who understood exactly how to exploit the vulnerabilities of complex military systems operated by dedicated professionals. Technical Sergeant Maya Rodriguez was no longer hiding from her capabilities. She was about to demonstrate why experienced maintenance leaders were among the most dangerous people on any battlefield when they finally decided to fight back with every skill and resource at their disposal. Through the driving rain and darkness, enemy assault teams advanced toward their objectives with professional confidence based on months of planning and intelligence gathering. They expected to find maintenance facilities defended by support personnel who would surrender rather than risk their lives protecting equipment. Instead, they were about to encounter a maintenance leader who had finally remembered that keeping aircraft operational sometimes meant eliminating threats to those aircraft with the same methodical precision that she applied to technical problems. Maya Rodriguez was done running from responsibility. She was ready to demonstrate what happened when highly trained professionals decided that some things were worth fighting for with everything they possessed. The next phase of the battle would determine whether coalition air power survived to continue supporting forces throughout Afghanistan or whether months of careful enemy planning would achieve objectives that conventional attacks had never accomplished. Technical Sergeant Maya Rodriguez and her maintenance team were about to provide the answer through actions that would define their careers and possibly save lives throughout the region. Everything they had learned about maintaining complex systems under impossible conditions was about to be tested in ways that training manuals never anticipated. The storm was far from over, and the real fighting was just beginning. Maya positioned her maintenance team throughout the aircraft shelter complex with the same systematic approach she'd once used for organizing major repair operations. Each person had specific responsibilities based on their technical expertise, but everyone understood that their primary mission was protecting the aircraft that coalition pilots depended on for survival. Staff Sergeant Rivera took position near the F-16 shelters with diagnostic equipment that could double as early warning systems if enemy forces attempted to access the aircraft. His understanding of avionics systems made him valuable for detecting unauthorized attempts to compromise sophisticated electronic warfare capabilities. Ghost, what's your status on aircraft security? Maya transmitted through the tactical communication network while monitoring enemy movement patterns on her portable display. All F-16s are secured with additional locking mechanisms on critical systems, Rivera replied with professional calm. Anyone trying to access flight controls or weapon systems without proper procedures will trigger alarms throughout the complex. Airman Torres had established her meteorological monitoring station in a position that provided excellent observation of approaching enemy forces while maintaining communication with base defense coordination. Her weather analysis skills translated naturally into tactical reconnaissance capabilities. Maya, I'm tracking multiple small units moving through the storm toward different aircraft shelters simultaneously, Torres reported with growing concern. Their coordination suggests professional military training and detailed knowledge of our facility layouts. Maya felt the familiar analytical clarity that had once made her legendary for solving complex technical problems under extreme time pressure. Enemy forces were demonstrating capabilities that required systematic countermeasures based on understanding their objectives and methods. Technical Sergeant Park had positioned himself near the maintenance equipment storage areas where specialized tools and repair capabilities were concentrated. His institutional knowledge made him invaluable for protecting the resources needed to keep aircraft operational regardless of battle damage. They're not just after the aircraft, Park observed through the tactical network. They're targeting our ability to maintain and repair them. Someone understands that capturing planes is worthless without the technical capability to operate them. The insight provided crucial understanding of enemy objectives that conventional security assessments might have missed. Maya's maintenance background allowed her to recognize patterns and priorities that infantry-trained personnel would interpret differently. Airman Wong had established a communication monitoring post that kept track of enemy tactical coordination while providing intelligence updates to friendly forces throughout the base. Her language skills were proving invaluable for understanding enemy intentions and capabilities. Sergeant Rodriguez, their communications are indicating Phase 2 of their operation, Wong announced with controlled excitement. References to securing the iron birds and preparing the nest for new eggs suggest they're planning to operate captured aircraft rather than just hold them for propaganda purposes. Maya processed this intelligence while calculating the implications for defensive priorities and tactical responses. Enemy forces with the capability to actually fly captured American aircraft represented a threat level that exceeded anything coalition forces had previously encountered in Afghanistan. All stations, this is maintenance control, she transmitted to security forces and command personnel throughout the base. Enemy forces are demonstrating capabilities and objectives that suggest professional military aviation backgrounds. They're not just trying to capture aircraft, they're planning to use them operationally. Colonel Martinez's response came immediately through encrypted channels, her voice carrying the controlled tension of a commander grappling with threat levels that exceeded normal contingency planning. Maintenance control. That assessment changes our defensive priorities significantly. Use whatever methods necessary to prevent aircraft from falling into enemy hands, including destruction if capture becomes imminent. Maya understood the implications of the colonel's authorization. Destroying aircraft to prevent enemy capture was an extreme measure that reflected the strategic significance of preventing American military technology from being compromised or used against coalition forces. Through her tactical display, Maya could observe enemy assault teams moving with professional precision toward predetermined objectives throughout the aircraft shelter complex. Their movements revealed detailed knowledge of base layouts and aircraft locations that suggested extensive reconnaissance or inside intelligence. Chen, what's your status on communication security? Maya asked while monitoring multiple enemy elements advancing through the storm toward her positions. All aircraft communication systems are locked down with additional encryption protocols, Chen replied from his position near the F-16 maintenance facilities. But they're using military-grade jamming equipment that's interfering with some of our coordination frequencies. Maya realized she was facing the kind of complex, multi-dimensional threat that her maintenance experience had uniquely prepared her to understand and counter. Technical expertise, tactical awareness, and leadership abilities were all necessary for protecting critical assets under these conditions. Captain Kim's voice crackled through the radio from her position coordinating with security forces personnel throughout the base perimeter. Her pilot background provided valuable insight into enemy capabilities and the strategic importance of preventing aircraft capture. Maintenance control were observing professional aircraft assessment techniques among enemy personnel, Kim reported with obvious concern. They're conducting systematic evaluations of each aircraft's operational status and combat readiness. This goes far beyond typical insurgent objectives. The intelligence confirmed Maya's growing understanding that they were facing enemies with sophisticated knowledge of American military aviation capabilities and procedures. Professional assessment of aircraft readiness suggested personnel with advanced military training and specific experience with American equipment. Master Sergeant Morrison coordinated weapon security from his position near the ordnance storage facilities, ensuring that enemy forces couldn't access ammunition and missiles, even if they succeeded in capturing aircraft. His expertise with weapon systems made him crucial for preventing complete compromise of combat capabilities. "Maya, they're making coordinated probes against our weapons storage areas," Morrison reported through the tactical network. "Professional techniques for bypassing security systems and accessing controlled munitions. These aren't local fighters." Maya found herself automatically shifting into the systematic problem-solving approach that had once made her legendary among Air Force maintenance personnel. Every piece of information revealed patterns and priorities that could be exploited through technical knowledge and tactical application of maintenance expertise. "All maintenance personnel, this is Control," she transmitted with growing authority. "We're implementing technical security measures based on our understanding of aircraft systems and enemy objectives. Use your knowledge of how these systems work to prevent unauthorized access and operation." Staff Sergeant Santos provided security updates from her position coordinating defensive operations throughout the base perimeter. Her tactical experience was proving crucial for understanding enemy capabilities and coordinating effective countermeasures. "Maintenance control, enemy forces are demonstrating exceptional coordination and tactical discipline," Santos reported, with professional respect for their capabilities. "They're adapting to our defensive responses and exploiting weaknesses in real time. This is the most sophisticated threat we've encountered." Maya studied the tactical situation with analytical precision that revealed opportunities for applying maintenance expertise in ways that conventional security measures wouldn't consider. Technical knowledge could provide tactical advantages if applied with proper understanding of enemy objectives and capabilities. "Security forces, this is maintenance control," Maya transmitted while formulating a plan based on her unique understanding of both aircraft systems and enemy intentions. "Request permission to implement technical countermeasures designed to prevent enemy operation of captured aircraft, even if they succeed in gaining physical access." Lieutenant Colonel Wright's response came immediately, reflecting the desperate nature of their situation and the need for innovative approaches to unprecedented threats. "Permission granted, maintenance control. Use whatever technical methods necessary to prevent enemy achievement of their objectives. All conventional security measures are authorized to support your operations." Maya looked around at her maintenance team positioned throughout the aircraft shelter complex, each person representing decades of combined experience with the most sophisticated military aircraft in the world. Their technical knowledge, properly applied, could create defensive capabilities that enemy forces wouldn't anticipate or understand. "Listen up," she announced through the tactical network with the authority she'd avoided for 3 years. "We're going to use what we know about these aircraft to make them useless to anyone who doesn't have proper training and authorization. Technical security measures that turn captured assets into liabilities." Technical Sergeant Park nodded grimly while accessing aircraft control systems through his maintenance computer interface. "What kind of technical countermeasures are we implementing?" Maya felt the cold tactical clarity that had once made her legendary for keeping aircraft operational under impossible conditions. The same systematic approach could be applied to making aircraft inoperational for unauthorized personnel while maintaining the capability for legitimate coalition pilots to resume operations when security was restored. "We're going to implement maintenance locks, system modifications, and technical barriers that prevent enemy operation while preserving our ability to restore full capability once the threat is neutralized," Maya explained with growing confidence. "Turn our technical expertise into tactical advantages." The battle for Bagram was reaching its climax as enemy forces closed on their primary objectives, while maintenance personnel prepared to demonstrate why highly trained technicians were among the most dangerous people on any battlefield when they finally decided to fight back with their specialized knowledge and skills. Maya Rodriguez was no longer the broken maintenance leader who'd spent 3 years avoiding responsibility. She was a combat veteran who'd finally remembered that protecting aircraft sometimes required eliminating threats to those aircraft with the same methodical precision she'd once applied to technical problems under extreme pressure. The storm continued to rage across Afghanistan, but the real tempest was about to be unleashed by maintenance personnel who understood that some things were worth fighting for with everything they possessed, using every skill they'd acquired through years of keeping the world's most advanced military aircraft operational under conditions that would defeat lesser professionals. Enemy forces advancing through